This is Duke University.
Global trade and environmental justice.
Human rights issues are still.
The term Ubuntu.
The Alien and Sedition Acts
is making inferential discovery.
The importance of an archive.
The John Hope Franklin Center.
So here at the Franklin Humanities Institute, we are going to have a series of events on April 14th that discuss the role and significance of an organization that is called SNCC, which is SNCC, and stands for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And we're doing this because at the same time, that weekend of April 14th, 15th, and 16th, there is a large-scale event in Raleigh, North Carolina, in which activists commemorate the 50th anniversary of the founding of SNCC. Why is SNCC important, and why should we pay attention? Most people, almost every American has heard about the Civil Rights Movement. But ordinarily what people associate with the Civil Rights Movement are leaders such as Martin Luther King or other famous people, and legislation that came out of Washington like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. What people ordinarily know much less about is something about the activists who actually made the movement happen. And SNCC is probably, many would argue, quite possibly the most important civil rights organization in terms of activism. SNCC is a group of people who, students in the South, who were brought together by a famous activist by the name of Ella Baker in April of 1960, after 3 months of experiences with sit-ins across the South. This all started in February of 1960 in Greensboro, North Carolina, where 4 African-American students from North Carolina A&T sat down at a lunch counter of the local Woolworth, which is the beginning of a movement in which thousands of students across the South sat in. And by April, it became clear that there was a large group of students willing and ready to take it one step further, but nobody knew exactly how and how to do that and how to go about doing it. And so Ella Baker, at the time, I think she was 55 years old or so, a lifelong civil rights activist, brought about 126, I believe, students together at Shaw University in Raleigh in April of 1960, and essentially said, you know, let's create an organization that will allow you to move on and to take this beyond the sit-ins and to think about how to address the grievous forms of racism that were still in existence in the South. And so what SNCC became famous for are things like the freedom rides. Those are in most history textbooks today, where black activists and white activists integrated buses and then rode through the South and were firebombed and beaten and things of that nature in order to make a point that that buses should be desegregated. And of course, what in the end really was the most important thing, perhaps, of what SNCC ended up doing is the voter registration drives, something that really was done under the leadership of a man by the name of Bob Moses. And what they did is they really went into those areas in the South in which the smallest number of African Americans were registered to vote. And of course they were so small, the numbers, because people were not allowed to vote. People were beaten, people lost their jobs, people lost their credits, and so on and so forth when they tried to vote. So to make a long story short, what is amazing about snake activists is that they single-handedly broke apart Jim Crow, a system that had been in existence ever since the end of slavery and the beginning of Reconstruction. And so people who ordinarily one would not look for in terms of who is likely to bring about dramatic political change in a country like the United States did precisely that. And so I think that they have a huge lesson to teach to young people, particularly today, in the sense that if one is reasonably clear about what one wants to accomplish, and if one finds ways to organize, which of course is one of the most difficult things to do, it is very possible to achieve a lot, and in this case a lot of political change. Snake really stands as a symbol for great accomplishment that is possible when young people come together and figure out how to organize and how to critique and battle against powerful structures that do a lot of harm. In this case, segregation, Jim Crow, racism. So the conference in Raleigh that commemorates the 50th anniversary of Snake will bring together practically all of the remaining activists of that era, and they will have panels and talk about what we can learn from this experience today, and why that history was buried in so many ways, and why so many young people in America today don't know about it, which in and of itself I believe is a really important thing to look at, because the message that we get in America today more often than not is that people without power and without wealth cannot make a difference. A refrain that one hears a lot is that, you know, it doesn't matter what I think, nothing will change anyway. And if nothing else, snake activists demonstrated very clearly and very powerfully that that is wrong. That it is in fact possible, even when you don't have power and you don't have a lot of money, that you still can make a huge difference.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.